Thank you so much for joining us online today. We so appreciate you checking out this message. We hope you enjoy it and are inspired to live more and more like Jesus Christ by His grace. If you would like to support the ministries of Rancho, you can do so at rancho.tv/giving. Set up a giving profile and a reoccurring gift. We'd sure appreciate that. Enjoy.
We're going to start a brand new series about relationships. And whenever we have a series about relationships, we bring up Elaine. Now, she is the executive director of Safe Harbor Counseling here in town. She has helped so many people, along with your incredible staff, helped hundreds and hundreds of people that really just are stuck in a relationship, stuck in their emotions, and you help to free them in so many ways. Elaine is also a brand new governing pastor, which means she's on our board for the church, so we're so excited to have you as a part of that. She is a speaker. She has spoken at our Women's Christmas Dessert. You speak every year at the marriage retreat. I can go on. That's a very, very long list. But such an amazing person, amazing heart of God. And so we're going to tag team the intro throughout this series. I'm excited about it.
Excited too.
How long have you been coming to Rancho?
I was just doing the math. I think it's been about 19 years.
19 years. Wow, that's a big deal. So it's been fun. And again, your partnership in ministry has been very, very powerful. And we also thank you for being here because we know you have a little health scare with your dad, and that's been kind of a tough journey.
Yeah, if you get a chance, pray for my dad, Bill. He's been having a hard time. He was in the ICU, but he's doing a little better. So
all right, well, good. Well, we'll definitely keep him in prayer. So we're going to talk about relationships, a Let's Talk series. These are the conversations that will strengthen every relationship. And when it comes to one thing that every relationship needs to get better at, the one thing that always pops up in every relational book, every relationship series, and we can almost say it together. Ready?
Right.
It's what to watch on TV every night.
Oh, we didn't communicate
okay.
well.
Sorry. It is communication. Yes, communication is what every relationship really is made of, right?
Yes.
And it's so critically important, but it's also something that we all struggle with. Everybody struggles with communication. No one can say, well, I've got this totally nailed. So today we're going to talk about the value of communication. Why is this so important?
Yeah, I mean, when you think of healthy communication, it feels a little cliche, right? But when you really feel it is when it breaks down. So when you're in a relationship with someone and that breaks down, it does. It leaves you feeling misunderstood. If you feel like you didn't have a voice, it makes you feel isolated, alone. So that's when we really see it. And I would say the way I would define healthy communication, and really what I think is at the core of communication, is when it's safe, when there's safety, right? So do I feel safe to share with you how I feel? Or do I feel safe to tell you my needs? And do I feel safe to talk about conflict, right? Now, research actually shows that conflict, you can break it down to three things. It's a complaint, it's a concern, or it's a difference of opinion. So we're all gonna have those, right? And so safety, we gotta make that safe space, so that we can be able to bring those things to the table. So I need to find out, is this relationship safe for me? But I need to be safe for people too.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that communication was about safety, I kind of re-looked at some verses, and there are tons of scriptures that compare communication with safety. One of those is Proverbs 12:18. Some people make cutting remarks. So some communication is not safe.
Right.
Of course, the goal is safe communication, but the words of the wise bring healing. And that's a sense that we're here for each other. We're here to not harm, but we're here to bring wholeness to your life. We're here to embrace you, to value you, and all that really comes through communication. But this is not easy. Communication is incredibly difficult, all right? Why is it so tough?
Well, I mean, sometimes we get stuck in cycles with one another, so that's kind of hard, and we have to learn to step out of that. But I would also say the big thing is that as humans, we go to that place of wanting to protect ourselves, right? And that goes way back to childhood. So in your childhood, you were taught how to give and how to receive love. And so some of us grew up in families where we could talk freely about emotions and we had good communication skills. In other families, you were taught to minimize it, to shut it down, or you really maybe felt like you didn't have a voice. So as a result, then when we're as adults in these relationships, Sometimes those old injuries get triggered, right? And sometimes we go to these places where we put up walls to protect ourselves. We might withdraw. Or maybe you're the opposite. This is more me. You get demanding and intense for your needs to be met. And so I think when it comes down to it, when you're in this place, you're like, why can't we communicate, right? Like, why am I so bad at this with this person? I would encourage you to ask, what am I trying to protect? Like, what's the core issue beneath that I'm trying to protect, and what are they trying to protect? And I think when you can do that, that's when things start to really open up.
Yeah. And we want to protect a lot. We want to protect our sense of control. If we're feeling out of control, we can kind of relax. We can react. Sometimes we want to protect a sense of being noticed, right? You feel invisible. We might react to certain things a certain way. We might want to protect our sense of being valued. If we feel devalued or our opinion doesn't matter, we might want to protect our sense of being cared for. All of this happens through the dynamics of communication, either feeling safe or feeling unsafe. And when we feel unsafe, there's things we want to protect. And so communication can go south. Now, when it comes to communication, a lot of times we think about talking, right? What we say. But communication, I think, is probably more about listening, right?
Yes.
And why is listening so critically important?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, if we can put our own agendas aside for a minute and really get into that habit of leaning in and listening to a person, maybe that means listening without interrupting, it promotes this kind of presence where, hey, you matter, and I'm trying to be curious. I know it sounds kind of corny, but when we take that stance of curiosity, like, hey, what did you mean there? Or can you tell me more about that? Like telling people, yes, this part makes sense. That makes sense to me. But this part I'm needing help with. Or even like with that person saying, what do you think is going underneath there for you? Once we start leaning in, slowing down, and being curious like that, boy, again, it really opens things up.
And Jesus was a good listener too, right? I mean,
Yes.
You see all throughout the Gospels that he was driven by relationship. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's all about Jesus connecting, as you said, leaning in and being curious about that relationship. So you see Jesus, who's the full expression of God himself, asking a ton of questions. That was like an art form for him.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about Christ, he sat with people, he listened, he invited children to him, he wept with people. And so what Jesus is really doing there is he's letting pain exist. And that's super important in our communication, is to let that pain exist. And it promotes this really powerful presence that just opens things up.
And we're in this together. Every good thing, every painful thing, we're in this together. And if we learn to lean in, like you said, and we learn to be curious, we focus on each other, not just protecting myself, some good things can be unlocked.
It's not me against you.
Exactly.
It's us against the problem.
Yep, there you go. I love that. That's
Yep.
perfect. James 1:19 says this: understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry.
Love it.
So a lot of communication is really just about slowing down and breathing and getting the rat race in our head to kind of get calm and really seek to understand and connect with each other at a deeper level. And that's what this series is all about. And thank you for sharing this with us.
All right.
We appreciate it very much. And Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
I think communication is really what makes us uniquely human. When you really boil it down, what makes human beings distinct from other species on Earth? It's really our ability to communicate. And archaeologists and anthropologists have dissected this in some pretty powerful ways. Because before 150,000 years ago, a long, long time ago, we were just another primate walking the planet, right? 150,000 years ago, Homo sapiens started communicating. Words, sentences, phrases, complex ideas, 150,000 years ago. Then we started separating as a species to be something more advanced, where these incredible brains of ours were being used in more complex ways, solving more complex problems. And 100,000 years ago, communication started becoming societal. Languages started emerging in societies. People started clustering around towns and industry and farming because of language, because of our ability to communicate. It's really a powerful thing. Our ability to think complexly and communicate complexly, I think, makes us truly human being, and I also believe makes us in the image of God. Our ability to communicate makes us the image of God. Because it's God himself who created the entire cosmos with a word, right? God spoke the cosmos into existence. This entire universe is God's communication. He creates through his communication. He spoke the world into existence, the heaven and earth. And then in the New Testament, we see that Jesus Christ is referred to as the Logos, or the Word of God, the expression of God. Jesus himself is the communication of God on the earth. He says, this is who I really am. Don't think so much about your notions of me or maybe these formal religions, but look at Jesus. I'm communicating fully who I am through Jesus. God is a communicator, and our unique ability to be communicated to and communicate with is something that makes us uniquely in the image of God. And as we mentioned, communication is not just about words, right? It begins with words, but it's so much more than that. It's tone. I mean, we can have a lot of fun saying the same phrase in different tones, and it will communicate entirely different ideas, right? Body language, facial expressions, timing. Somebody said after last service, somebody who I trust implicitly with science, he says, 80% of communication has nothing to do with words. Nothing to do with words. So when we talk about communication during this series, and when we have a series called Let's Talk, it, yes, starts with words, but there's so much more than that. Communication is deeper and richer and more complex than we can even possibly imagine. And so this is going to be an incredible journey, learning how to better communicate with each other and to deepen every relationship. And here's, I think, the foundation of it all. The goal of communication is mutual understanding. The goal of communication is mutual understanding. It's not to just get your point across. It's not to just win an argument. It's not to just get your way. It's not to just be right. I mean, that's a lot of fun. But really, communication is more about creating an understanding in the other person and from the other person. Where are you really coming from? Who are you really? What is really going on in your life, in your head, and in your heart? And let's understand the nature of this relationship, the value of this relationship. And communication is going to help us understand each other. It's going to bind us together in a very special thing that is this relationship. Proverbs 18:2 says this, fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. No looking at each other, no nudging, no this is for you. That's not allowed during this series, right? But airing our own opinions is fun, right? I mean, our society is filled with this. Every newscast, every sports commentator, politicians, we just love airing our opinions, just bloviating. This is what I think, and I'm gifting you all with my thoughts. That's not really communication. Communication is about understanding, really finding out what is at the heart of you and the heart of this relationship. But it is not easy. I mean, there is so much science, whether psychology or other fields, that study how communication takes place and the complexity of that. I'm going to show you the 10 steps that it takes to share two phrases between two people. You ready? This is how complex communication is. First of all, there's a point I want to communicate somewhere in my psyche. I want to communicate a point. Then there's what I intend to say. My brain is putting together words and phrases and thoughts. And then there's what I actually say, which may be different than what I intend. Then there's what you heard me say. And then there's how you interpret the meaning of what you heard me say. That's one phrase. Then it gets reciprocated right back. Then there's the point that you want to communicate in response, then what you intend to say in response, then what you actually say in response, and then what you heard me say in response, then how you interpret what I said in response. That is the loop of two phrases shared between two people. Now put on that emotions, a crisis, an argument, and words just flying 1,000 miles an hour, loop after loop after loop after loop, and things can get very dicey and can get very complicated. So when we talk about communication during this series, we're talking about something that is so important, vitally important. The very nature of relationships itself is our communication with each other. And then you layer upon that the complexity of every passing phrase and what's behind that and what the meaning is and the emotion of it and the circumstance of it. It is incredibly difficult. But in it all, If we walk this journey together, we will get better at communicating. We will never perfect communication, but we will get better and better, and relationships will get stronger and stronger toward the goal of unity and peace and love. Proverbs 15:1 says this, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. We want our communication to be gentle, slower, more peaceful. And that'll forge unity and forge love in your relationships like you have never experienced before, right? But it involves identifying some patterns that might have gotten a little sideways, reordering things, readjusting things, building in new healthy patterns to make every relationship stronger. And that's the point of this winter series. And this will help every relationship. This is not just a family series. This is a relationship series. So yes, this will help your family. You will become better and better at communicating with your parents and grandparents. You'll become better and better communicating with your spouse, with the one you're dating, with your kids, with your coworkers, and with your boss. And I'm telling you, if you learn to communicate better in your job, your career will skyrocket. It just will, because the people who know how to communicate at work, they're the people who are building networks, they're building connections, they're better at problem solving, they know how to talk to their boss, right, to get the best out of their boss so their boss can get the best out of you. I mean, these communication skills unlock just power and life and goodness everywhere. In your neighborhood, with your friends, with the stranger on the street. Learning how to communicate can have powerful impacts, either for the good or the bad. Here's an example of how this went really bad just a couple of months ago. Playing golf with my buddies, having a good old time. It is busy. It's a busy day on the golf course, and we are stacked and we are slow. There's a twosome behind us who was getting very impatient. So they started doing the whole this thing. This is how you communicate on a golf course from way back there, that I'm unhappy with the pace of your play. And we're like, dude, we are stacked. Like, we cannot literally play any faster. So we're on a par 3, we're on the green, and they pass us. A twosome passes us. We know they're not going anywhere. They're going to be just stuck right behind a group, and then we're going to be slower because now we're behind them, and so we have some tension. Passing a group on a golf course is tense. It's touch and go. And they were blaring music. And so one of the people I was playing with just shouts. I mean shouts. We're stacked. You're going nowhere. They didn't hear anything because the music was so loud. Then we start throwing explicatives. Volume is immediately raised. I'm talking 10 seconds. This thing goes from 0 to 100. They throw down their clubs and they're like, you want to go? And I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't been hit in the face since I was in 5th grade. I'm thinking, I'm totally going to get hit in the face. I am ChatGPTing what a bro should do when your buddy gets jumped. And it's like, the answer was not good. It's like, you got to step in. First tone it down, then get involved. I'm like, I can't do this, right? Pastor Scott Treadway preaching with black eyes, just like, but this is going down, right? Over just a couple of phrases early on in a tense moment. And we are in it. And I thought for sure, I mean, this is toe to toe, 2 versus 2. And then me and a buddy going, what are we going to do right here? Fortunately, things kind of calmed down, cooler heads prevailed. They just got off the golf course. They're like, we're done, we're out. And then there was a lot of reflection for the next several weeks about the nature of how we do things on a golf course. But, keep in mind, the very same situation, the same tense situation, twosome is passing a foursome on a golf course, heading into a stacked situation. Hey guys, hope you're having a great round. Can we start that way? Hey guys, hope you're having a great round. You see how the whole tone is different? Hey, turn down the music a little bit. You see we're stacked. See that foursome and that foursome and that foursome and that foursome? And we're going, no, we'll be off this green and it's yours pretty soon. Have a nice day. Communicate the same thing. You actually have a better result, but instead of words spinning to anger, we have words that are calming things down. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Meaning, if we know how to communicate, there will be a harvest of goodness in your life. You will eat of the fruit of good communication, knowing how to use the tongue, knowing how to communicate. There are 3 incredible and necessary tools that every single one of us should get better at to become better communicators and have better relationships, which means you have a better life. That's the bottom line. Better relationships, better life, Here's 3 tools that every single one of us can use. And as we go through these, just identify which one you need to work on the most today, like right now. First, active listening. Active listening. We typically listen passively as we're actively reloading the next phrase, right? Words are coming, yeah. But what I'm really doing, I'm really actively focusing on the next phrase I'm going to say to win this argument, or to get my point across, or to get my way. Active listening shuts everything out except the words coming your direction. This takes a lot of discipline. It's a whole new habit that I don't think anybody is naturally good at. We need to work at this. Somebody who I care about is sending me words. I have to intentionally shut out the rest of the world so I can actively listen to these words. That means I'm going to slow down my brain, not to reload the next phrase, but to really understand the words that are coming my direction. I'm going to slow everything down and not speak. When I do speak, I'm probably going to ask a question. Did I get this right? Did I understand you correctly? Or could you be a little bit more specific? Could you give me an example? So the words that we're saying are not to fire back. The words that we're saying are trying to seek understanding. What do you mean by what you're saying? Slowing everything down, being calm. Early in my marriage, I was horrible at this. Horrible. In fact, I remember a specific day in my relationship with my lovely wife. This was about 30 years ago. We were having a disconnect. Not raising our voice, but just having a disconnect. And words were going back and forth pretty fast. And then my wife started crying. And I was kind of, taken aback by that, because to me, we're just having a spirited conversation, and she started crying. And I'm like, oh boy, I really messed something up. And here's what she said. I'll never forget this. I don't feel like you're my husband right now. You're the opposing lawyer. And I immediately started creating sentences in my brain to convince her that I'm not. Actually, I was. So I had to slow that down and to say, you know what? That is exactly what she's experiencing, and this is my fault. I'm not partnering with her. I'm not communicating in a way that makes her feel as though I'm a partner with her, trying to solve a mutual problem together. I'm just firing away arguments like a lawyer. And that was her very real experience, and that was my very real actions that were creating that. Just firing arguments, not actively listening, not trying to get a true sense of where she's coming from, not understanding, not even attempting to understand where she's coming from, but I had something in my brain, something I wanted to accomplish. I still remember exactly what it was. Not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but in the moment, I'm firing away. Not listening to her, not understanding her, firing away. Proverbs 18:13. To answer before listening, that is folly and a shame. Early in my relationship, my communication with my wife was a folly and a shame. Now, since that moment, which I will remember the rest of my life, I've been trying to become a better listener, which is hard when you're a preacher. I mean, it's really difficult. I just want to preach all the time, right? And gift the world with my insights. So I've got to really learn to become a listener, a better listener. And so here's something that took place, this was about 2 months ago. I'm with a colleague, not a church staff member, but a leader in the area who I'm a big fan of. We get together on a regular basis. And this person, in a series of sentences, said something to me that was extraordinarily offensive. Now, I think I have thick skin. I've been doing this a very long time. A lot of things have happened, a lot of controversies and politics and religious stuff and disconnects over the decades. I think I've got pretty thick skin, but this phrase, that was just one phrase stacked in a bunch of phrases, just was a dagger to my heart. And my brain just started going off. As more words were being said, my brain was going off. It's like, oh, this one hurt. This one stung. Do I just let it go, not worry about it? What I wanted to do was just fire back. Oh, I don't know you didn't, and give a stinger. That would have been the old Treadway, trying to get better. And so I just paused and said, hey, listen, we gotta stop. We gotta slow down. And we gotta go back to what you said a little while ago. And I repeated what this person said. You said this, And I just want you to know that hurt a lot. And did you mean what you said, or did you mean something different? And that unlocked not only a 10-minute conversation digesting that one phrase that she said, but it was really digesting what's going on in this leader's life and her past, and maybe some of my tendencies that weren't aligning with her, how she communicates. And so we did a debrief that lasted quite a bit, and we will still debrief that as we go. It would have been so easy to just ignore that. Just ignore it and move on. But I guarantee if I ignored that, there would have been something there between us that I didn't want there. Some kind of resentment, some kind of thing I'd always have when I see this person and interact with this person. Also, there would be permanent damage maybe if I just fired away. You offended me, I'm going to offend you back. You accused me, I'm going to accuse you back. And it's on, right? Would not have been good. So communication, whether it's a colleague or whether it's family members or a friendship that kind of disconnects, when there's a disconnect, to be able to actively listen and say, hey, wait, I think something has happened here that we need to slow down, and we really need to seek understanding. We need to seek understanding. That's active listening. The second skill is positive speaking. Active listening, positive speaking. You might have heard from a parent or a grandparent something like this. If you don't have anything good to say, what? Don't say anything at all. I hate that phrase. I actually don't even think it's healthy. But I like the point of it. The point of it is, hey, listen, don't be destructive by what you say. Don't say things that are mean and hurtful, right, for the sake of being mean and hurtful. So I like the intent behind it, but it's not always, the healthiest thing to do, because there's sometimes we need to have a conversation that may not feel good in the moment. Like the conversation I had with this colleague. Some things that were said back and forth that weren't feeling good in the moment. Some hard things had to be said. Some things kind of going back to past experience that needed to be dealt with, right? So the phrase, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all, sometimes will rob us of really having to deal with some things that need to be dealt with, right? So I invented an alternative. It's not as poetic, but I think it's better. If you don't have anything to say that will result in something good, don't say anything at all. Sometimes we have to deal with a hard thing. Sometimes we have to deal with a hurt or an offense or something that took place that doesn't feel good in the moment. Sometimes we do have to lovingly and humbly confront somebody and say something that might not feel very good in the moment, but will have a greater good. So sometimes hard things need to be said, but there's a greater good behind that will come up. Here's what the Apostle Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another, and that's just speak that is pure positivity, right? I'm telling you something that's going to make you feel good right now. But there's another kind of speech that he mentions. Build up one another. That's a deep thing. Building you up. In this exchange I had with this colleague, the intent of that conversation was to build this person up, and reciprocally, this person was building me up. The conversation was hard, dissecting a bunch of stuff, revealing a bunch of feelings, talking about childhood. I mean, this conversation got kind of deep for a bit. And so even though it wasn't fun, even though it didn't feel good, we were building each other up. I think we're better people as a result of that very difficult conversation that will continue. So building each other up isn't just the fun and good. Building each other up sometimes has to deal with things that are quite difficult. Active listening, positive speaking, determined resolving, bringing resolution where there are disconnects. Disconnects happen in every relationship. Every relationship worth having, every relationship of any depth comes with some disconnect. You're going to have a disagreement. You're going to have hurt feelings. You're going to have something that creates this feeling that, we are not getting along right now. Disconnects happen. And if we don't work to resolve them, if we don't have a determined work to resolve those disconnects, things are going to linger. Feelings are going to linger. And there's a bunch of science behind this. When things are unresolved, when disconnects are unresolved, there can be chronic stress, anxiety, depression, anger, helplessness, low self-esteem. These things come when we don't resolve relationships that have disconnects. That's just the beginning of the list. There could be constant tension, resentment, loneliness, emotional instability. The robbing of the joy of life comes when we don't have resolution to disconnects in relationship. There can be a damage of trust, intimacy, communication, leading to isolation and distance. There can be health problems, chronic stress, heart problems. I mean, you name it. We need to resolve disconnects in relationship for our own good and for the good of the relationship. Ephesians 4:26 says this, "In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry." Some people take that literally and they are determined to resolve every disconnect before the sun actually goes down. It's not literal, it's just a phrase. What it means is resolve. Resolve disconnects. When the time is right, at your earliest convenience, resolve this disconnect. I can say with some confidence, I have one unresolved relationship in all the earth right now. One. It's a doozy. And that relationship, I believe like 99%, I believe that relationship one day at the right time will be resolved. It's very complicated. It involves a lot of factors. But I am ready for the resolution when the time is right. The time is not right now, January 4, 2026. There's some things that had to be put in place, just healthy boundaries. And we'll talk about boundaries at times when we go through this series. But there's times where you just need some distance. There's a time where you need to value safety. There's a time when you say, hey, listen, I don't need to be attacked incessantly, and we're going to put a pause on this thing, right? There are times for boundaries, but at the earliest possible convenience, when the time is right, bring resolution. Bring resolution at the right time. Bring resolution so there's mutual understanding, which means we're not going to agree necessarily. Resolution doesn't mean we agree. In every healthy relationship worth having, you're going to disagree, and you're going to disagree permanently on some things. I've got a couple of friends, and there's a relationship there where now you're going to just fall off your chair. He's the most conservative person you've ever met in your life. She's the most liberal person you've ever met in your life, and they're trying to make it work. It's like, is that humanly possible? No. Is it divinely possible? Hard maybe, right? They're going to disagree on 100,000 things for the rest of their lives, and they've got them all written down. They are going to disagree on a ton of things, and sometimes it feels like we're going to disagree on more things than we agree on. This is having a real impact on that relationship, but they're working it through. So that sense of resolution doesn't mean, oh, it's resolved, we agree. No, for them, there's 1,000 disagreements that will be there for the rest of their lives. But they're still bringing resolution. I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with where you're coming from, but I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you would have that opinion. I understand that opinion comes from a good place because you got a good heart. You see what's happening there? Is like that's resolution. Doesn't mean there's agreement. There's another phrase out there, agree to disagree. You've heard that one, right? Agree to disagree. While, again, I agree with the spirit of that phrase sometimes is the last attack in an argument, right? You're having an argument back and forth, well, agree to disagree. It's like, agree to disagree. It's just shutting down, agree to disagree. So sometimes that phrase, while, well-intended, we're going to value this relationship over winning an argument, sometimes this can be dismissive. I want to turn this phrase around and say, how about we agree to agree? Meaning, we're not going to focus on our disagreement. Yeah, we disagree. That's just the nature of life. It's just the way it is, so what? But where do we agree? And that list is long. We agree that this relationship matters. We agree that you matter. We agree that we can do a lot of good together. We can agree that this family is a really cool family despite the stuff we disagree about. We agree that, we want to love the world around us. We agree that, God is working in this relationship. We agree that through us, some good things can happen in our world, in our family. There's so many things that we agree. We agree on these values. We agree on helping these people. We agree. When you start focusing on what you agree on, we agree to agree on this list of things. That's what binds a relationship together. But most of the time, we end up focusing our passion on what we disagree on, and that is not healthy. address those things, come to an understanding on those things. Some of those things are very important, but let's spend most of our time, energy, and attention on agreeing to agree on so many powerful things about who we are in this relationship. So where have we been today to get this series started? Just think of one of these things that you would want to focus on today. Seek understanding. We understand each other. Maybe that's what you want to focus on. I'm really not communicating toward understanding. I'm doing a lot of reloading. I really want to understand the person in this relationship. Active listening. Active listening. Maybe this is the thing you need to work on. Slowing down, slow to speak, focusing on every word coming your direction, asking questions. Speaking positively. If you tend to say things that are negative or tear people down, reverse this pattern right now and really ask God's help and the help of each other and the help of this series to speak positively and determine to resolve everything. Determine to resolve every disconnect possible when the time is right. What do you want to work on beginning right now? And I want to close with two words. Two words. We're good. We're good. In all of the chaos and complexity of every relationship and every conversation and every disconnect, in all of this stuff, I think there's a moment at the end of every conversation, no matter how gnarly it gets, where we say something like, "We're good?" Which means, are we good? Did we have all the conversations we need to have? Is there anything else that's kind of unresolved? Is there anything else that maybe we need to rehash? Is there any apology that I need to make, right? This is "we're good?" Are we good? And resolution comes when you both nod your head and say with an exclamation point, "We're good." That's resolution. Doesn't mean we agree, but it means we value and treasure this relationship, and we're good. Some of the most gnarly disconnects I've had in my own family and my own marriage have ended with this conversation. Spirited conversation. Disagreements everywhere. But we're good. And we can smile, you can hug, you can kiss, and you know that life is good and this relationship is good, which means I'm good. When we're good, I'm good. I'm going to close in a time of prayer for your relationships as we start this incredible winter journey together. Would you all stand with me as we pray and ask God to teach us and strengthen every relationship? Our God and Father, we thank you for this time together that we've had. We thank you for the new year, which brings new opportunities, which means new possibilities for life and relationships. And God, life is all about relationships. And so I pray that you would guide us and teach us by your word, by our community together. Help us to learn from one another in powerful ways to make every relationship stronger. And God, we thank you that you're a God of relationship. You are not some distant force. You are a personal, loving Father to us all. And you've communicated in so many powerful ways through the creation of this cosmos, the creation of life itself, making us in your image with the capacity to communicate from you, from each other to each other. God, this is powerfully what it means to be alive and to be a human being. And God, we have so much to learn. So we humbly ask you to teach us in every way, to make every relationship better so that our lives will be better, more rich, more full, more powerful, more fully alive. In Jesus' name we pray, and everybody said, amen. If you want prayer for